Oil prices have plunged on the hope of an imminent peace agreement between Iran and the United States. When trading resumed following the weekend, the global benchmark Brent crude dropped below $100 a barrel for the first time since April. Well, it comes as President Trump has urged US negotiators not to rush into an agreement with Tehran. He said both sides must take their time to get it right. Well, as we have been reporting, the US Secretary of State's continuing his trip to India. He told reporters the president won't make a bad deal.
We're still a work in progress. As I said, we thought we might have some news last night. Maybe today. I wouldn't read too much into it. It takes a little while to hear back. So we have what I think is a pretty solid thing on the table in terms of their ability to open up the straits, get the straits open, enter into a very real, significant, time-limited negotiation on the nuclear matters. And hopefully we can pull it off. It has a lot of support in the Gulf. It has a lot of support globally. Every country that we've walked through it understands it's not just very reasonable, but it's the right thing for the world to get done. As the president said, he's not in a hurry. He's not going to make a bad deal. I mean, the president's not going to make a bad agreement. So let's see what happens. We're going to give diplomacy every chance to succeed before we explore the alternatives.
Secretary of State there, Marco Rubio. Well, let's speak now to our correspondent in Delhi, Azadeh Moshiri. Azadeh, always good to talk to you. So we heard there from Marco Rubio saying that there's a pretty solid thing on the table when it comes to opening up the Strait of Hormuz. What more do we know about that?
Yeah, Regina, there had been signs over the weekend that there would be at least some sort of partial deal that was announced to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Marco Rubio on Sunday, as you mentioned there, he's on a 4-day visit here in India, had said that we could expect good news to reopen the strait in the coming hours. He said it wasn't a final deal, but that progress would be made. Now here we are, there still isn't an official announcement and it's unclear exactly what is happening. What's being reported is that the deal under negotiation is an extension by 60 days of the ceasefire that would allow the Strait of Hormuz, that vital shipping lane, to be reopened. What it would also do is kick down the road some of the thorniest issues that are why we've seen a delay in getting a final deal decided between the United States and Iran. That includes sanctions relief for Iran, unfreezing Iranian assets, as well as curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions. And while we're talking about so many delays and obstacles, it's worth remembering that what the Trump administration is saying that they'll be able to accomplish in weeks, if not months, is something that's taken years under the Obama administration when they agreed on the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA that Donald Trump exited. And part of the issue here for the White House is that they've very heavily criticized that deal. And there's that pressure that they're getting from Republicans to offer something that has what they had long said was missing in the JCPOA, including things like curbs on their ballistic missiles, something that Gulf countries that have been heavily hit by what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz had been criticizing as well. And so in the meantime, we're waiting to find out whether there is any sort of progress on getting that strait reopened, the vital shipping lane, as this global energy crisis hangs in the balance. Countries like here in India are being deeply affected by it. And of course, what also hangs in the balance is the future for the Iranian people who are dealing with an economic crisis domestically that has only been further compounded by this war. And of course, they're seeing the government, their government change with hardline figures consolidating power, figures that had also been responsible for brutal crackdowns domestically. And so they are waiting, as is the rest of the world that is being affected by the US-Israel war in Iran.
OK, Azadeh Moshiri in Delhi, thank you very much for that update. Well, let's stay with that story. Let's speak now to Arash Azizi, a historian and author who's written extensively about Iran. Welcome to BBC News. It felt, didn't it, over the weekend that a deal was so close, and now we're not clear when a deal might come. I mean, the question many people watching this will be asking is, why is it taking so long if there is a feeling that a deal is in the offing?
I think that a deal is in the offing and it might very well be close, but the reason it takes time is that the provisions, even when they're simple and don't go into technical details in this case, they're still huge on either part. Like, what kind of language will you use, for example, on the opening of the Hormuz Strait? Iran wants a language that recognizes its sovereignty somehow. The U.S. obviously wants to make clear that it's an international waterway that people can pass through. Iran wants the unblocking of its assets, and there's a disagreement about how much assets are there that Iran is sort of has a right to, and whether they should be released or not. And there's also disagreement on, okay, after this round, there's going to be nuclear talks. How are they? What language one uses to get to define them? So look, it's not surprising if when a group of few people come together to publish a text about something simple, it often takes a long time. So it's natural that on such a grand matter between two nations, things takes time. And of course, there's also a bit of on both sides, negotiators they decide on something, they have to then run it back to their capitals and get agreement from the leadership in Tehran and Washington, and that takes time too.
Let's talk about the leadership in Tehran, because who is calling the shots at the moment when it comes to brokering all of this?
The day-to-day leadership is run by the National Security Council, this collective body of military security officials. Probably the most influential on this team is Bagher Ghalibaf, Speaker of the Parliament, although he's not playing a very public role either. But inside the council, that's the case. And of course, the ultimate leadership is the supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who is, hidden from the view. He has not been seen once since he became supreme leader after his father's killing. And the understanding is that you will need his final signature on whatever the deal is. But I believe that he's basically given a bit of a leeway to the negotiators and to the National Security Council folks who are actually running the country. And ultimately, he will give his sort of imprimatur on the final deal.
Yeah, and let's talk a bit more as well about these so-called plans for further negotiations when it comes to Iran's nuclear program, because this has long been a sticking point between America and Iran, hasn't it?
Yes, the nuclear program has long been a sticking point between Iran and the world, really, not just the US, but international community more broadly. Even countries like Russia and China are concerned about it traditionally. And the contours of a deal are clear. Iran would need to give up its weapons-grade enriched nuclear material and uranium. And that's also a disagreement, because apparently the American side also is interested to get all the enriched, not only those that, Iran has about 2,000 kilograms of enriched uranium, about 1/4 of which is enriched to weapons grade level. So the United States at some point wants all of the enriched material. So either this could be diluted on Iranian territory or could be taken away to Russia or other countries. That's one part. The other issue is for Iran to cease its enrichment program. I promised, pledged to not enrich for 10, 15 years, something like that. And then they're also disagreeing on how long that is. And of course, then there's the question of sanctions relief. Iran will get sanctions on Iran economy will be lifted. And what complicates all of this is the sequencing. So, who does what first? So these are some of the things that if this first agreement goes into place, in the second phase, they'll get into discussing on these details, and they will probably give themselves initially 30 days or something.
Okay.
That could be, that could also be extended.